The lipstick on my husband's collar is Paris Rose, the exact shade he gave me on our first anniversary. I have not worn it in over a year, but someone has. It is 2 in the morning. I am 6 months pregnant, standing barefoot in a penthouse bathroom that costs more than most people will earn in a lifetime. My billionaire husband told me he was at a business dinner. He lied, because my phone just lit up with a photo. My husband in Los Angeles, his arm around a blonde woman, smiling at her in a way he has never, not once in 18 months of marriage, smiled at me. But that is not what destroyed me. What destroyed me was the black envelope on the kitchen counter. Divorce papers, already signed, dated 3 weeks ago, and a custody clause demanding full rights to my unborn daughter. He was not just leaving me. He was erasing me. And he had been planning it for a month while sleeping in our bed. But here's what my husband did not know. Here is what no one expected. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not fly to Los Angeles to make a scene. I photographed every page. I wrote him a note with 3 sentences. The first was true. The second was true. The third was a lie that would change everything. Then I disappeared. And what happened next brought a billionaire to his knees value statement. This is not just a story about betrayal. This is a survival guide disguised as drama. Every woman trapped in a cage made of silence, money, or someone else's power needs to hear this. Because the most dangerous moment in any fight is when they convince you that you have already lost. If you believe that broken women can build unbreakable lives, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever had to walk away from someone who thought you would never leave? Share this story with a woman who needs to hear it tonight. And if you are new here, welcome to a channel where every story ends with a woman standing on her own 2 feet. Now settle in. This one is going to stay with you long after it ends. The note I left on the kitchen counter said 3 sentences. The first sentence was a lie. The second sentence was the truth. The third sentence changed everything. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me start with the lipstick. It was 2 in the morning when I found it. Paris Rose. That exact shade, the one my husband gave me on our first anniversary, wrapped in silver paper with a card that read, "For the woman who makes gray buildings bloom." I wore it exactly once. The night I waited until midnight with his favorite lamb roast turning cold on the table. He never came home. Now that same color was smeared across the collar of his white dress shirt like a brand, like evidence he did not even bother to hide. My name is Alara Thornton. I am 31 years old, 6 months pregnant, and I am standing in the bathroom of a Manhattan penthouse that costs more than most people will earn in a lifetime. The marble floor is cold under my bare feet. My hands will not stop shaking. And my billionaire husband, Silas Vane, is supposed to be at a business dinner in Midtown, but my phone just lit up with a photo that says otherwise. The photo is from Maya, my best friend in Los Angeles. 4 texts in rapid succession. Girl, tell me why your husband is at the Beverly Hills Hotel looking like he is on a second honeymoon. With a blonde, who is wearing a ring that is not subtle. Call me. Now. I zoomed in on the photo. Silas standing in the hotel lobby, his arm around a woman in a white dress that probably cost more than a car. She was laughing. He was smiling, and that smile, that is what destroyed me. Not the woman, not the ring, the smile. Because in 18 months of marriage, Silas Vane had never once smiled at me like that. Not at our wedding, not when I told him I was pregnant, not ever. I did not focus on the blonde woman's face. I focused on his hand, resting on her lower back with casual intimacy. He touched her the way I always wished he would touch me, not possessively, gently, like she mattered, like she was real to him in a way I had never been. That is what broke me, not the betrayal itself, the tenderness he was always capable of, but chose to withhold from me. My daughter kicked hard against my ribs. She had been active all night, restless, like she could feel the storm gathering before I could. I made it to the toilet just in time, threw up everything I had eaten that day, which was not much. When I came out, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand, Mrs. Higgins was standing in the hallway. Mrs. Higgins had been the Vane family nanny for 30 years, 68 years old, silver hair pulled into its usual tight bun, eyes that had seen everything, and judged quietly. She brought me tea every morning in a cup that said, "World's Okayest Boss," a gift I had given her as a joke. She treated it like fine china. It was the only warm thing in this apartment. She had seen the photo. I could tell by the way her face folded in on itself, like paper crumpling. "How long?" I asked. She would not meet my eyes. "I think a long time, dear. Before you, before me." The words landed like stones dropped into deep water. I was not even the interruption in Silas and this woman's love story. I was the intermission, the placeholder between acts of a romance that had nothing to do with me. I walked back to the bedroom, our bedroom, though calling it ours felt like a joke. We shared a California king bed, the way strangers share an elevator, occupying the same space while pretending the other person did not exist. I sat on the edge, pressed both hands to my belly, and felt my daughter move. Your father came home at midnight, smelling like someone else's perfume. I whispered to her, again. But, hey, at least he came home this time. Progress, right? Your mama is setting the bar so low, it is underground, baby girl. I did not cry. I want you to understand that. I did not cry because, somewhere beneath the shock and the nausea and the bone-deep exhaustion of being 6 months pregnant and completely alone in a glass tower, something else was waking up. Something cold and clear and calculating. Because there was a black envelope on the kitchen counter that had not been there this morning. And somehow, in the way you know things before you know them, I already understood what was inside. I walked to the kitchen, picked up the envelope, heavy, expensive paper, the kind Silas used for contracts worth millions. Inside were divorce papers, already signed by him. Dated 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. He had signed these 3 weeks before Maya's photo, 3 weeks before the lipstick on his collar, 3 weeks before any of this exploded. He had been planning my exit for almost a month while sleeping in our bed, eating at our table, watching me grow bigger with his child. But that was not what stopped my heart. Attached to the divorce papers was a custody clause. Silas Vane was requesting full custody of our unborn daughter, citing concerns about the mother's psychological stability and fitness. He was not just leaving me. He was taking my baby. I stood there for a long time. The penthouse was silent. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan glittered like a promise made to someone else. This apartment was all glass, all transparency, everything visible, everything except my husband's heart. Then I did something that surprised even me. Instead of collapsing, instead of calling Maya or my father or screaming into the void, I picked up my phone and photographed every page of those divorce papers, front and back, every clause, every signature, every date. I saved them to my cloud storage, emailed copies to a second account. Then I put the papers back in the envelope, sealed it, and placed it exactly where I had found it. My mother always said something that stuck with me. She said, "When someone shows you the exit, photograph the building before you leave. You might need the blueprints later." Silas did not know I had seen the papers, and I was going to keep it that way, because for the first time in 18 months of marriage, I had something my husband did not expect me to have, information, and I was going to use it. Let me tell you about the cage I lived in, so you understand what I was leaving behind and why it took me so long to leave. The penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor of a building Silas owned on the Upper West Side. 4,000 square feet of Italian marble, custom furniture, and windows that made you feel like you were floating above the city. Every interior designer in Manhattan had fought for the project. Silas chose the most expensive one, naturally, and then told me not to change anything. The designer's choices are optimal, he said, when I suggested adding some plants to the living room. Plants were my language. I am a landscape architect. I design gardens, parks, urban green spaces. I make dead concrete bloom. But in my own home, I was not allowed to place a single fern on a windowsill. I had not redecorated a single room in 18 months. The nursery I was designing alone existed only in sketches spread across a desk in the spare bedroom. Soft greens, warm wood, a mobile of tiny birds I had found at a craft fair in Brooklyn. Silas had never looked at any of it. When I showed him the sketches, he said, "Whatever you want," in a tone that meant I do not care. That was his signature move. The whatever that meant, nothing. The fine that meant, stop talking. The you look tired that meant you look terrible. He had an entire vocabulary of indifference, perfectly calibrated to make me feel invisible without ever saying anything technically cruel. Here's what nobody tells you about emotional neglect. It does not leave bruises. It does not give you a dramatic story to tell your friends. It just slowly empties you out, like someone leaving a faucet dripping, until one day you realize the sink is dry and you cannot remember when the water stopped. I married Silas Vane 18 months ago to save my father's architecture firm from bankruptcy. My father, Thomas Thornton, had built his company over 30 years. Beautiful buildings, award-winning designs, a reputation for integrity. Then the economy shifted, a major client defaulted, and suddenly we were $6 million in debt, with no way out. Silas appeared like an answer to a prayer nobody should have prayed. He offered a merger, a partnership, a financial lifeline. The terms were simple. His money, my father's expertise, sealed with a marriage that would unite both families and both companies. A business arrangement, Silas called it. Clean, simple, profitable for both parties. I agreed because I loved my father and I could not watch him lose everything he had spent his life building. I agreed because Silas was handsome and powerful, and I thought, stupidly, naively, that I could make him love me. That warmth could melt ice. That kindness could crack marble. I was wrong about all of it. The morning after I found the divorce papers, I woke to an empty bed. Silas had left early. No note, no message, no indication he knew I had discovered anything. The black envelope sat on the kitchen counter like a bomb with a slow fuse. Mrs. Higgins brought breakfast on a tray. She looked at the circles under my eyes and said nothing, which was her way of saying everything. "Mr. Vane left at 5 this morning," she said carefully. "He mentioned he would not be home for dinner, or tomorrow night." I nodded, ate a piece of toast I did not taste, felt my daughter kick against my ribs like she was saying, "Wake up, Mama, we need to move." Then my phone rang. My father. "Sweetheart, we need to talk." His voice sounded wrong, old, scared. "What happened?" "Vane Industries just pulled out of our merger agreement. They are recalling the loan. We have 30 days to repay $6 million or we lose everything." The room tilted. I gripped the counter. "Dad," Silas promised. "Silas Vane does not make promises, honey. He makes investments, and apparently, we stopped being profitable." After he hung up, I sat in the silence of my glass prison and let the pieces assemble. The divorce papers dated 3 weeks ago. The loan recall, the fiancé in Los Angeles, the custody threat, This was not a man leaving his wife. This was a military operation. Every piece positioned, every move calculated, every exit blocked before I even knew the game had started. I was not a wife. I was a financial instrument with an expiration date, and that date had just arrived. Here is the moment everything changed. Not the discovery of the affair, not the divorce papers, not even the custody threat. It was what I did next. The old Elara would have flown to Los Angeles, would have stormed into that hotel lobby, pregnant belly and righteous fury, and made a scene that would end up on every gossip site in the country, would have given Silas exactly what he wanted, proof that she was unstable, emotional, unfit. I did not do that. Instead, I sat down at the kitchen table. I breathed, I thought, and I wrote a note. 3 sentences on a piece of cream stationery. Silas, I found the papers. I understand now. I will sign everything by Friday. The first sentence was true. The second sentence was true. The third sentence was a lie. The biggest lie I had ever told, and it was going to save my life. I left the note on the counter where the black envelope had been. Then I went to the bedroom and packed 3 suitcases, not frantically. Methodically. Passport, important documents, my design portfolio, maternity clothes, the few personal items I had brought to this glass cage 18 months ago. I paused at a $4,000 Valentino dress, still in its garment bag, never worn, tags still attached. I could have bought a really nice used car with that money, or 800 burritos. I have made some truly terrible financial decisions in my life. I left every designer dress hanging in the closet, left the jewelry, the shoes, the handbags that cost more than my first apartment, took only what was mine from before. The clothes that still smelled like my old life before I traded my soul for my father's company. Mrs. Higgins watched me pack. Her hands trembled as she folded my maternity jeans. "Where will you go?" she whispered. "I do not know yet, but not to my father's house. He is losing everything because of this, and I cannot carry his guilt on top of my own pain. This is not your fault, dear. I know, but knowing that and feeling it are 2 very different things. I did not go to my father, did not call Maya, did not check into the kind of hotel where Silas's people would look for me. Instead, I took a cab to a budget hotel in Brooklyn, paid cash, used my maiden name at the front desk. Then I sat on a bed that squeaked under my weight, placed both hands on my belly, and felt my daughter move. Strong, insistent, alive. "Okay, baby girl," I whispered. "Here is what we are going to do. We are going to fight. Not like he expects, not loud and messy and emotional. We are going to fight smart. We are going to fight quiet. And we are going to win." Then I picked up the phone and started making calls. Here's what nobody tells you about survival. The first instinct, to scream, to confront, to make them see you, that instinct will get you killed, not physically, strategically. When you are outgunned, outfinanced, and 6 months pregnant in a hotel room that smells like industrial cleaner, the most powerful thing you can do is let them think they have already won. That note I left on the counter was my first weapon. 3 sentences that told Silas exactly what he wanted to hear. That I was defeated, compliant, ready to sign away my life and my daughter for whatever scraps he offered. It bought me time. And time was the only currency I had. Phone call number 1. My old college roommate, Brooke Anderson, now a paralegal at a mid-sized family law firm in Manhattan. "Brooke, I need the name of a divorce attorney who hates billionaires and works on contingency. Someone mean." She did not hesitate. "Riley Callahan. She is a shark in a charcoal suit. She once made a hedge fund manager cry on the witness stand during cross-examination. She will love this case. Phone call number 2. To the one architect colleague I trusted completely, David Moore, who had worked with my father for 15 years and owed our family everything. David, I need you to quietly pull the public records on every real estate deal Vane Industries has done in the last 3 years. Property acquisitions, partnerships, anything involving a company called Sterling Capital. Do not ask why. Do not tell my father. Just get me the documents. Long pause. Then, done. Give me 48 hours. Phone call number 3. The one that mattered most. Mrs. Higgins picked up on the first ring, like she had been waiting by the phone since I left. I need you to do something for me, I said. Something that might cost you your job. Dear, I have been waiting 30 years for someone to ask me that. Silas had a private study in the penthouse, the one room that was always locked. I had never been inside, never questioned it, because that is what 18 months of marriage to a man like Silas does to you. You stop asking questions. You stop expecting answers. You stop believing you have the right to know what is happening in your own home. I need you to find his private study, I told Mrs. Higgins. The locked room. Photograph anything you can find. Contracts, letters, anything with Arthur Sterling's name on it. Arthur Sterling. I had heard the name at dinner parties. Old Money Manhattan. His daughter Genevieve was the blonde in Maya's photo. The pieces were connecting, but I could not see the full picture yet. Mrs. Higgins said, I know where he keeps the spare key. Behind the scotch. Because apparently men who think they are geniuses all hide things in the same places. I laughed. Actually laughed. It sounded rusty, like a door that had not been opened in months. But it was real. 48 hours later, I sat across from Riley Callahan in her office on West 43rd Street. She was 40 years old, red hair cut in a severe bob, eyes that could cut glass. She wore a charcoal suit and no wedding ring. Her office wall had framed newspaper clippings of every case she had won, and there were a lot of them. Tell me everything, she said, sliding a legal pad across the desk. Start from the beginning. Do not leave anything out. I talked for 90 minutes. The arranged marriage, the cold indifference, the lipstick, the divorce papers, the custody threat, the loan recall on my father's company. Riley took notes in sharp, efficient handwriting, did not interrupt, did not judge. When I finished, she sat back and did something unexpected. She smiled. You know what he is doing, right? She said. Divorcing me? No. Destroying you. Systematically. This is not about ending a marriage. This is about erasing you completely so there is no evidence he ever made a mistake. The divorce papers, the custody threat, the financial attack on your father. It is all designed to make you so desperate that you sign whatever he puts in front of you and disappear. My stomach went cold. But here's the thing about men like Silas Vane, Riley continued. They are so used to winning that they get sloppy. He filed in New York. You know what New York law says about pregnant women in custody? Automatic temporary custody goes to the mother. His custody threat is a bluff. It is designed to terrify you into signing fast before you realize you have rights. Then Mrs. Higgins delivered her package, a manila envelope left with Riley's receptionist. No return address. Inside, photographs from Silas's locked study. Dozens of documents, financial records, correspondence, and one contract that changed everything. Dated 6 months before Silas proposed to me. A partnership agreement between Vane Industries and Sterling Capital. Standard legal language until page 7, where a single clause sat like a bomb. Clause 14. Collateral obligations. In the event that Vane requires liquid capital exceeding $50 million for the acquisition of target properties. 3 bis, Sterling agrees to provide bridge financing through Merchant Trust Bank. Said financing will be secured against the business assets of Thomas Thornton Architecture, contingent upon Vane's marital union with Alara Thornton. Upon dissolution of said arrangement, Sterling will execute the recall of all outstanding loans to Thomas Thornton Architecture, rendering the firm insolvent and forcing asset liquidation. Proceeds to be divided 60% Vane Industries, 40% Sterling Capital. I read it 3 times. Each time the words cut deeper. My marriage had not just been arranged. It had been weaponized. From the very beginning, the plan was always to bankrupt my father. I was just the bait. And when Silas was done using me, when his real estate deal was finalized, he triggered Clause 14, divorced me, bankrupted my father, profited from both. Riley was already on her feet, pacing. "This is fraud," she said. "Conspiracy, possibly racketeering. Do you understand what this means? It means he planned to destroy my family before he ever put a ring on my finger. It means we have a nuclear weapon, but we have to be smart about when we deploy it. He does not know you have this. That is our biggest advantage." I nodded, felt my daughter kick. Strong and sure, like she was saying, now we are getting somewhere. Riley filed a counter petition for divorce the next morning. Alleged emotional abuse, financial manipulation, requested full custody, and spousal support. We did not mention the contract. Not yet. That was our surprise, our insurance policy. For one brief, beautiful moment, sitting in Riley's office, with the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, I felt something I had not felt in months. Hope. I should have known better. Hope in a fight with Silas Vane was just the setup for a longer fall. The first punch came on a Tuesday. Marcus Holt, Silas's divorce attorney, held a press conference on the steps of the Manhattan courthouse. Marcus Holt was 60 years old, silver hair, a suit that cost more than most people's rent. He had the face of a man who had spent decades destroying people in courtrooms and enjoyed every second of it. He stood behind a podium flanked by what he called character witnesses, a doorman from our building, a housekeeper, the building manager. People I barely knew, people who had smiled at me in the elevator and said good morning, and apparently had been taking notes the entire time. "Miss Thornton has a documented history of erratic behavior," Marcus said, his voice smooth and practiced. "Emotional outbursts, withdrawal from social activities, an inappropriate relationship with a young male employee of the building." Then came the photos, projected on a screen behind him for the cameras. Me laughing with Daniel Ramirez, the landscaper who had helped me design a rooftop herb garden last spring, his hand on my shoulder, me smiling up at him, completely innocent, completely damning when framed the right way. Daniel was gay, engaged to his boyfriend Mitchell. We had talked about plants and soil composition and whether rosemary could survive a Manhattan winter. That was it. That was the extent of our scandalous relationship. But the photos did not show context. They showed a young, attractive man touching a pregnant woman's shoulder while she smiled at him. They showed reasonable doubt, and reasonable doubt was all Silas needed. I watched the press conference from my hotel room in Brooklyn. Maya had flown in from Los Angeles and sat beside me on the bed, gripping my hand so tight I lost feeling in my fingers. "This is garbage," Maya said. "Total fabricated garbage. Can they do this?" They just did. The second blow landed 30 minutes later. Riley called with her voice tight. "They traced your cell phone. Marcus filed a motion claiming you fled the marital home with the unborn child. He is framing your departure as parental kidnapping. That is insane." I left voluntarily. I am 6 months pregnant, living in a hotel. I know. But the motion creates a narrative. Unstable wife, flees in the night, takes the baby. It plays well in front of a judge who does not know the full story. I sat on the edge of the bed, my hands shaking. My daughter was quiet inside me, unnervingly still, like she was holding her breath. Then the third blow, the one that nearly broke me. I called my father. I needed to hear his voice, needed someone in my corner who shared my blood. He answered on the first ring. Dad, have you seen the news? I have seen it. It is lies. All of it. I know. Listen, I need to tell you about the contract I found. Silas and Arthur Sterling planned everything. The marriage, the divorce, the loan recall. There's a clause that... Alara. He cut me off, his voice cracked. There is something I never told you. Everything in me went cold. When Silas proposed the arrangement, I did not just agree. I asked him, I approached him. I offered you like a business asset. I said my daughter is smart. She is beautiful. She is loyal. She will make a good wife. I marketed you like a product. The room went completely silent. Even Maya stopped breathing. I sold my daughter to save my company, my father said, and I have hated myself every single day since. I hung up. Did not say goodbye, could not form words. Maya reached for me, but I pulled away, walked to the bathroom, closed the door, sat on the cold tile floor with my arms wrapped around my knees. 3 blows in rapid succession. My reputation destroyed publicly, my legal position undermined, and the discovery that my own father had not just agreed to the arrangement, but had initiated it, had pitched me to a billionaire like a portfolio piece, smart, beautiful, loyal. As if those were selling points on a brochure, I sat there for a long time. My daughter started kicking, frantic, like she could feel her mother's world ending and was trying to get my attention. I cannot do this, I whispered, then quieter. I have to do this. Here's the thing about rock bottom. Everyone talks about it like it is a moment of clarity. Like you hit the floor and suddenly you see everything clearly, and you rise up with newfound strength and determination. That is not how it works. Rock bottom is just the floor, cold, hard, and you are lying on it wondering if you have the energy to stand. But here's the secret nobody tells you. You do not need enough strength for the whole fight. You just need enough for the next 5 minutes. I stood up, washed my face, opened the bathroom door. Maya was standing right there, eyes red, hands out, ready to catch me. I need a plan, I said. You have a plan. You have Riley. You have evidence. I shook my head. I need a bigger plan. Something Silas will not see coming. Something that changes the battlefield entirely. Because I had realized something sitting on that bathroom floor. I could not beat Silas Vane in his world. He had the money, the lawyers, the connections, the power. Every weapon in his arsenal was designed for the courtroom, the boardroom, the negotiating table, so I needed to move the fight somewhere else entirely. I spent 2 days in the Brooklyn Public Library, 6 months pregnant, wearing maternity jeans and a sweatshirt, reading our every major investigation into corporate fraud published in the last 5 years. The librarians kept offering me water and cushions. One of them, an older woman named Dorothy, brought me a sandwich from the deli next door without being asked. You look like you are working on something important, Dorothy said. I am trying to save my life, I said. And my daughter's life? Dorothy nodded like that was a perfectly normal thing to hear on a Tuesday afternoon. Then she brought me 3 more books and a cup of herbal tea. I was not looking for a lawyer. I already had Riley. I was looking for a journalist, someone with credibility, someone who could not be bought or intimidated, someone who would tell my story without sensationalizing my pregnancy or turning me into a victim for entertainment. I found her on page 47 of a Columbia Journalism Review from the previous year, a profile of Diana Whitaker, investigative reporter at the New York Times. The woman who had exposed a senator's real estate corruption scheme, who had brought down a pharmaceutical company that was price gouging cancer medication. Thorough, fair, fearless. I did not email her, did not call her office. I wrote a physical letter by hand on plain white paper and had Maya deliver it to the Times building. The letter said, "I have documentation proving that Silas Vane orchestrated a fraudulent marriage to facilitate a conspiracy to commit financial fraud. I am not interested in revenge. I am interested in the truth being reported by someone who will not sensationalize my pregnancy or my pain. If that is you, I would like to talk." Diana Whitaker called within 4 hours. Maya answered the phone because I was in the bathroom for the 14th time that day. Pregnancy plus stress plus a diet consisting primarily of hotel vending machine snacks was not kind to my digestive system. "Hello," Maya said. Then her eyes went wide. "The New York Times? Oh, sure. Hold on 1 second." She pressed the phone against her chest and whispers screamed across the hotel room. "Alara, it is the New York Times. No pressure or anything. Just the newspaper of record. While you are peeing, as one does." We met the next day. A conference room at the Times building. Diana Whitaker was 50-something, gray hair cut short, glasses that she kept pushing up her nose. She had the kind of face that had seen every type of human cruelty and somehow maintained compassion. "Tell me everything," she said, placing a recorder on the table. I talked for 3 hours, laid out every piece of evidence. The contract with Clause 14, the timeline, the photographs Mrs. Higgins had gathered from the locked study, David Moore's public records showing a pattern of similar deals between Vane Industries and Sterling Capital going back years. Diana verified everything independently. Cross-referenced dates, called sources. She was meticulous in a way that made me trust her completely. At the end, she sat back and looked at me over her glasses. "This is going to be a major story. Front page, possibly multiple parts. Are you prepared for what comes next?" What comes next? Silas Vane will use every resource at his disposal to discredit you. His PR team will paint you as a gold digger, a liar, mentally unstable. They will dig up every mistake you have ever made and broadcast it. Your life will be examined under a microscope. Is that something you can handle? I placed both hands on my belly, felt my daughter moving, strong, alive, fighting to exist in a world that seemed determined to erase her before she was even born. "I can handle it," I said. For her, Diana nodded. "Then we publish in 3 days. That gives me time to verify everything and gives you time to prepare. Once this goes live, there is no going back." I did not sleep for those 3 days. Could not eat much either. Maya stayed with me in the hotel room, bringing food. I mostly ignored and keeping up a running commentary on whatever terrible reality show she had found on the television. "If you are going to wage war against a billionaire," Maya said one night, passing me a container of soup, "you should at least eat some protein. You cannot destroy the patriarchy on an empty stomach." "I love you," I said. "I know. Now eat your soup and stop looking at your phone. The article will be ready when it is ready. Staring at your inbox will not make journalism happen faster." She was right. About the soup and the staring. The article went live at 6 in the morning on a Tuesday, and within hours, the world I had been living in shattered into a million pieces. But this time, the breaking felt different. This time, it felt like breaking free. The article hit the internet like a bomb detonated in slow motion. By 7 in the morning, every major news outlet had picked it up. By 8, it was trending on every social media platform. By 9, my face was on cable news, next to Silas's, the contract displayed in stark black and white. Diana Whittaker had done her job perfectly. Every fact verified. Every claim supported by documentation. The story was not sensational. It was surgical, precise, devastating. The headline read, "Billionaire Silas Vane orchestrated fraudulent marriage to facilitate real estate conspiracy, documents show." My phone exploded. Texts, emails, calls from numbers I did not recognize. Maya appointed herself my communications director, screening everything and reporting updates like a war correspondent. Your college roommate Brooke shared the article with the caption, "I always knew she was tougher than she looked." That is nice. Your cousin Linda wants to know if you need a place to stay. 7 different journalists want interviews. Also, your hotel minibar is empty because I ate all the peanut butter cups. Sorry. Stress eating. On your behalf. By noon, the real damage started showing. Vane Industries stock dropped 22% in 6 hours. Silas's board of directors called an emergency meeting. Investors were panicking. The Hudson Yards project, his crown jewel, was suddenly on shaky ground. Riley called at 1 in the afternoon. "Have you seen the stock price?" "I have, good. Now listen. I have had 3 calls this morning from other women, former employees of Silas, who want to come forward with their own stories. Harassment, retaliation. One woman says he stole her architectural designs and used them without credit or compensation." My breath caught. Really? Your courage gave them courage. That is how this works. One person speaks up, and others find their voice. By the end of the day, the story had grown beyond me. Other names emerged. Other victims. A former assistant named Rebecca Morrison, who had been fired after refusing Silas's advances. A business partner named William Garrett, who had been systematically destroyed when he questioned an illegal deal. The pattern was undeniable. Silas Vane was not just a ruthless businessman. He was a predator who identified vulnerability and exploited it like a natural resource. For 2 days, I watched his empire crack from my hotel room in Brooklyn. I slept. Actually slept for the first time in weeks. My daughter was calm, inside me, peaceful, like she could sense that the worst of the storm had passed. Maya brought me donuts at midnight from a bakery on Atlantic Avenue. "I know you are having a moment of triumph," she said, "but I need you to understand that these donuts will change your life, even more than destroying a billionaire." Arguably, I laughed. Real, full laughter that made my belly shake and my daughter kick with what I chose to believe was joy. Maybe this is what winning feels like, I thought. I was wrong. I was so terribly, devastatingly wrong. Because the call that came the next morning changed everything I thought I knew. And it came not from Silas, not from Marcus Holt, not from any enemy. It came from Diana Whittaker, the journalist I trusted, the woman who told my story. And what she had to tell me was worse than anything Silas had ever done. Diana's voice on the phone was different, careful, like someone choosing each word the way you choose steps through a minefield. "Elara, I need to tell you something before it goes public. During my investigation, I pulled financial records from your father's company. Standard background verification. Something we do with every story." I sat up in bed. Maya was in the shower. I could hear her singing off key. The morning sun was streaming through the hotel curtains. And for one more second, one last innocent second, I thought everything was going to be okay. "Your father did not just offer you to Silas as part of a deal," Diana said. "He profited from it. There is a separate payment, $2 million, wired to an offshore account in your father's name, 6 months after your wedding. He was not just complicit, Elara. He was paid. The room went silent. Even my daughter stopped moving. That is not possible, I said. I have the bank records. I have verified the routing numbers, the account holder, the dates. I am so sorry. I hung up without saying goodbye, sat there staring at the wall for what might have been 5 minutes or 5 hours. The baby did not kick, did not move, like she knew, like she was mourning alongside me. Then I called my father. He answered on the first ring, like he had been sitting by the phone, like he knew this call was coming. Is it true? I said. My voice did not sound like mine. It sounded like someone speaking from the bottom of a well. The 2 million. Did he pay you? The silence lasted forever. I was going to lose everything, he said. The firm, our home, your mother's medical bills from before she passed were still. I was drowning, Alara. I could not see any other way. You sold me. You literally put a price on your daughter, and it was $2 million. Alara, please. Was it worth it, Dad? Am I worth $2 million? Because your company is bankrupt anyway. Silas recalled the loan regardless. So you sold me for nothing. I hung up. Pressed the phone against my chest. Felt something inside me die. Not dramatically, not with a scream or a sob. Quietly. Like a candle going out in an empty room. The one relationship I thought was still solid. The one person I believed had been an unwilling participant in all of this. Coerced by desperation. Guilty, but innocent of real malice. My father. The man who taught me to draw blueprints. Who held my hand at my mother's funeral. Who called me his greatest design. He had a price, and Silas Vane had paid it. Maya came out of the shower, saw my face, and knew immediately. She did not ask what happened. She just sat beside me and held my hand and was quiet. And that was exactly what I needed. Not solutions, not comfort, just presence. Just someone being there in the wreckage. Then the second blow fell. Riley called at 2 in the afternoon. Her voice was tight, with barely controlled fury. Marcus Holt filed a motion to suppress all of your evidence. His argument is that the contract was obtained through illegal search. Mrs. Higgins accessing the locked study. The photographs of the documents are fruit of the poisonous tree, illegally obtained evidence that cannot be admitted. Can he do that? He just did, and the judge agreed. Preliminary ruling. The contract is inadmissible, pending a full hearing. Without the contract, our entire case collapsed. We were back to, he said, she said. And his he said was backed by $1 billion and the most ruthless legal team in Manhattan. No, I whispered. No, no, no. We are not done, Riley said. We still have the article. We still have public pressure. We can appeal the ruling, but I could hear it in her voice. The uncertainty. The first crack in her armor. She knew what I knew. Without that contract, I was just another woman making accusations against a powerful man, and powerful men won those fights more often than anyone wanted to admit. The third blow came that night. I was lying in bed, trying to breathe through the panic that kept cresting like waves when I felt something wrong. A tightening, a cramping, sharp and rhythmic. Contractions. I was 7 months pregnant, too early. Way too early. Maya drove me to the hospital at 11 at night, running red lights and swearing at taxis. I sat in the passenger seat with both hands on my belly, whispering to my daughter, "Not yet, baby. Please, not yet. I need more time. We need more time." The doctors hooked me up to monitors, gave me medication to stop the contractions, told me it was stress-induced, that I needed to rest, bed rest, complete bed rest. No more war, no more legal battles, no more newspaper articles. The contractions stopped after 4 hours. My daughter's heartbeat stabilized, strong and steady on the monitor. She was okay. We were okay. Maya found me at 3 in the morning, hooked up to monitors, one hand on my belly, face blank. The contractions stopped, I told her. Baby is okay, but I have to stay on bed rest. Okay, we will figure this out. Maya. I looked at her. I cannot fight from a hospital bed. He wins. He actually wins. Maya sat down, took my hand. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. Do you remember sophomore year, she said, when Professor Davidson gave you a C- on your landscape design project, and you were so mad you redesigned the entire campus quad overnight? You went to his office the next morning with a portfolio so good, he changed it to an A and asked if you wanted to TA the class. I remember. You did that on 2 hours of sleep and a gas station burrito. You can do anything, Alara, even from a hospital bed. Especially from a hospital bed. Because nobody sees the bedridden pregnant woman coming. She was right. And what I did next from that hospital bed was the most important decision I ever made. I did not call Riley, did not call Maya, did not call my father, who had left 17 voicemails I could not bring myself to listen to. Instead, lying in a hospital bed at 3 in the morning with monitors beeping and my daughter finally sleeping peacefully inside me, I texted a number I had never used before, a number I had found in one of Mrs. Higgins's photographs from the study, scrawled on a post. It note stuck to the back of the Sterling contract, a phone number with a 212 area code and a name, Genevieve. This is Alara Thornton, I typed. I know you called off the engagement after the article. I know you are scared. I think we should talk. Not about Silas. About Arthur Sterling, your father, and what he did to mine. I stared at the screen. The cursor blinked. I hit send. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Then, I know what he did. I have proof of more. I will come to you. Where are you? Brooklyn General Hospital. Maternity ward. Room 412. I will be there tomorrow morning. She arrived at 9, looking nothing like the polished socialite from Maya's photos. No makeup, hair pulled back, wearing jeans and a plain white sweater. She looked exhausted. Human. Smaller than I expected. Like the armor of wealth and breeding had been stripped away, and what remained was just a woman who had also been lied to. She stood in the doorway of my hospital room, and we looked at each other for a long moment. 2 women, on opposite sides of a man who had used them both. I brought coffee, she said, and files. We might actually get along. She sat in the visitor's chair and opened a laptop. After the gala photos went viral, she said, after your article made me realize Silas had been lying to me for months, I went home and started looking into my father's business, into his partnership with Silas. What did you find? Genevieve turned the laptop screen toward me. Everything. Arthur Sterling and Silas had not just targeted my family. They had done this 5 times before. 5 marriages arranged as financial instruments, 5 families destroyed, 5 companies absorbed, a pattern spanning 15 years, a husband and wife in Connecticut whose restaurant chain was consumed, a widower in Philadelphia whose construction company vanished, a young couple in Boston whose tech startup was gutted. Each time, the same playbook. Identify a vulnerable business, arrange a marriage or partnership, extract maximum value, trigger the collapse, divide the profits. I was not special. I was not even unusual. I was just the latest in a long line of people Silas and Arthur Sterling had fed into their machine. But that was not the revelation that changed everything. There is one more thing, Genevieve said. Her voice got quiet. Careful. The custody filing. Silas does not actually want your daughter. What do you mean? He told me, back when we were together. His exact words were, children are leverage, not legacy. The custody threat is designed to force you into signing an NDA. He will drop it the second you agree to give up your right to sue. He does not want to raise your child, Alara. He wants to use her as a bargaining chip. I stared at her, felt my daughter kick, strong and outraged, like she had heard every word. He is using an unborn child as a negotiating tactic. He used me as one too, Genevieve said. He never loved me. I was just the next move on the board, a way to access my father's banking network and get closer to the sterling fortune. Everything he said about loving me since we were 16, all of it, was performance. We sat in silence for a moment. Two women who should have been enemies, who had every reason to hate each other. Instead, we recognized the same wound, the same hollowing out, the same realization that we had loved a man who did not know what love was. I am sorry, I said. For what he did to you. I am sorry for what he did to you, she said, and for what my father helped him do. That was the moment the alliance formed, not with lawyers or contracts, with understanding, because Genevieve's evidence had one crucial advantage over mine. She had obtained it from her own father's files, in her own family home, legally accessible. No locked studies, no questionable search methods. Her evidence could not be suppressed. I picked up the phone, called Riley. I have new evidence, legally obtained, enough to reopen everything. Riley's voice sharpened. Tell me. And then something beautiful happened. Maya walked in, carrying sandwiches, and found me on the phone with Riley, Genevieve typing on her laptop, Mrs. Higgins, who had arrived an hour earlier, arranging flowers by the window. So this is a war room now, Maya said. In a maternity ward. Cool, cool, cool. I brought lunch. Should I also bring a battle map? Little flags? A dramatic soundtrack? Maya. Right. Sandwiches. Shutting up. Carry on with your revolution. Over the next 48 hours, from my hospital bed, I coordinated everything. Riley filed a new motion with Genevieve's evidence. Genevieve agreed to testify against both Silas and her own father. Mrs. Higgins provided a written statement about the pattern of abuse in the Vane family going back to Silas's father. About his mother, Margaret, who died in that same penthouse under circumstances Mrs. Higgins had carried as a secret burden for 30 years. I was not being rescued. I was doing the rescuing. From a hospital bed, in a maternity ward, with a sandwich in one hand and a phone in the other, and a daughter doing somersaults in my belly like she was cheering me on. Genevieve went to see her father on a Thursday. She did not invite me, did not bring a lawyer, just walked into Arthur Sterling's office in his Midtown tower and closed the door. I know everything, she told him. Every deal, every destroyed family, every marriage you weaponized, 15 years of it. Arthur Sterling was 64, silver hair, the kind of face that belonged on currency. He had built his fortune by being smarter and more ruthless than everyone around him, and he had maintained it by being willing to do things other people would not. But his daughter was his weakness, the one person whose opinion he could not buy or manipulate. Everything I did was for this family, he said. You almost married me to a sociopath, Dad, for a business deal. You watched him destroy a pregnant woman, and you helped. Is that what this family is? Is that who we are? He did not have an answer. For the first time in his life, Arthur Sterling did not have an answer. She gave him an ultimatum. Cooperate with the investigation. Turn over every document. Testify against Silas, or lose her, permanently. He cooperated, not because he suddenly became a good person. People do not become good overnight. They just sometimes become afraid of losing the one thing their money cannot replace. Arthur Sterling held a press conference on a Friday morning. He stood behind a podium looking 20 years older than his actual age. And he did something that men like him almost never do. He told the truth. The contract, Miss Thornton revealed, is real, he said. I signed it. I helped Silas Vane orchestrate the destruction of Thomas Thornton's company. I participated in 5 similar schemes over 15 years. But he did not stop there. He revealed one final secret. The $2 million he paid to my father was not just for the marriage arrangement. It was to buy Thomas Thornton's silence about a building project that had cut corners on safety codes. A residential building in Queens where real families lived, where children slept in bedrooms with substandard fire suppression systems. My father had not just sold me, he had covered up a safety violation that endangered innocent people. The guilt he carried was not just about his daughter, it was about this. The dominoes fell fast after that. The DA filed criminal charges against Silas Vane: fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, bribery of public officials. I watched on the hospital room television as he was led out of his office building in handcuffs. His face was a mask, emotionless, but his eyes betrayed him. Fear, real, genuine fear. For the first time since I had known him, Silas Vane looked human. Then the second arrest, Thomas Thornton, my father. Accessory to fraud, building code violations, criminal negligence. Maya was beside me when it aired. She had to physically hold me upright. My father. They are arresting my father. I know. I gave them the evidence that led to this. I did this to my own dad. No, he did this. You told the truth. There is a difference. The difference did not feel like much comfort in that moment. I had chosen truth over loyalty, justice over family, my daughter's future over my father's past, and it cost me something I would never fully get back. That night, the stress caught up with me. 7.5 months pregnant, running on adrenaline and hospital food, and the constant low hum of anxiety that had become my normal state. The contractions started at 10, harder than before, faster, regular. The doctors moved quickly. My daughter's heart rate dropped. Emergency cesarean section. The words blurred together in the harsh hospital light. Maya in the hallway, gripping Mrs. Higgins' hand. Riley Callahan pacing outside the operating room. Genevieve Sterling, sitting in the waiting area, this woman who had been my husband's fiancée 3 weeks ago, now waiting to hear if my baby survived. The surgery took 47 minutes, the longest 47 minutes of my life. I was awake, numb from the chest down, staring at the ceiling, listening to monitors beep and doctors murmur in that calm, professional tone. That means something has gone wrong, but we are handling it. Then, a cry, small, fierce, angry at the world she had just entered, which seemed about right given everything she had been through to get here. Cora Thornton, 5 pounds, 2 ounces, 3 weeks early, lungs like a tiny opera singer. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a full head of dark hair, and her mother's stubborn chin. They placed her on my chest. She was so small, so impossibly small, and so alive. "Hi, baby girl," I whispered. "I am sorry your entrance was so dramatic. I promise your life will be calmer than your time inside me." She opened her eyes, dark, unfocused, ancient in the way. All newborns' eyes are ancient. She looked at me, and I absolutely swear she recognized me. Not my face, my voice. The voice that had been talking to her for 7.5 months. Through the fear, through the fighting, through every late-night conversation where I promised her the world would be better than this. Maya appeared in the doorway, tears streaming, grinning. "She has your stubborn chin. She is going to be trouble, and I am here for it." I laughed. It hurt. Everything hurt. But I was holding my daughter, and nothing else mattered. 3 years later, Seattle. Rain, always rain. Our brownstone in Capitol Hill is nothing like the Manhattan penthouse. No floor-to-ceiling windows, no Italian marble, no glass walls that made you feel exposed and watched and transparent. This house has thick walls and warm wood and plants everywhere. Ferns on every windowsill, herbs growing on the kitchen counter, a small garden in the back that I designed myself, full of native plants and flowers that bloom in the rain. Cora's toys are scattered across every surface, building blocks in the hallway, crayons on the coffee table, a stuffed elephant named Gerald who must be present at every meal or the world ends. This is home, imperfect and messy and warm and ours. I run a company now, Thornton Ecosystems, sustainable landscape architecture, 12 employees, 3 major projects, and a reputation for designing spaces that make people feel safe. We are not spectacularly wealthy. We are realistically successful. I pay my team well. I come home for dinner every night. I never miss bedtime. Here is what winning actually cost me, because nobody talks about that part. The price, the scars that do not show up in the triumphant final chapter. My relationship with my father is damaged. He served 6 months. Community service for the remaining sentence. We see each other twice a year. We talk on the phone sometimes. He sends Cora birthday presents that arrive on time and are always exactly right because he pays attention to what she likes. But there is a distance between us now that was not there before. A glass wall. We can see each other through it. We just cannot touch. I do not sleep well, have not slept through the night since the hospital. I see a therapist every Tuesday afternoon. Her name is Dr. Williams, and she has a couch that I refuse to lie on because it feels too much like a cliché. We sit in chairs, like normal people, and talk about trust and control and the difference between forgiveness and acceptance. I have panic attacks in glass buildings, cannot stand floor-to-ceiling windows, went to a meeting in a downtown Seattle high-rise last month and had to excuse myself to the bathroom to breathe into my hands for 10 minutes. Then I went back and gave the presentation and won the contract. That is what progress looks like, not the absence of damage, the ability to function alongside it. I have not dated anyone, not because I am broken, because I am still learning to trust my own judgment about people. My therapist says this is healthy. Maya says I should download a dating app. I told Maya that the last man I trusted tried to take my baby and bankrupt my father. So maybe I am going to take my time. Cora is 3. She is fierce and funny and relentless. She has my brown skin and my wide eyes and Silas's cheekbones, which I have made peace with because she is not him. She is entirely, completely, defiantly herself. She asks about her daddy, sometimes. Not often, but enough that I have learned to answer honestly without bitterness. Daddy made some big mistakes. He is working on being better. You will understand more when you are bigger. Is Daddy sad? I think so, baby. That is sad for him. Yeah, it is. Silas served 18 months in federal prison. Released 6 months ago. He sees Cora twice a month. Supervised visits at a neutral location. He has never missed one. He shows up on time, dressed in clothes that no longer cost more than most people's cars. He brings her books, reads to her in a voice that sounds different than the one I remember. Softer, less certain, more human. I give him credit for that. Not forgiveness. Credit. There's a difference. Cora negotiates bedtime like a tiny corporate lawyer. 3 stories, Mama. 3. This is my final offer. I know how to negotiate now. 2 stories and a song. Deal. But the song has to be long. I sing badly. She does not care. She falls asleep with her hand curled against my chest. and I sit there in the dark, watching her breathe and thinking about how close I came to losing this. All of this. The messy, beautiful, imperfect reality of a life I built from the wreckage of one that was never mine to begin with. Last week, a letter arrived. Not from Silas, from his therapist, forwarding something Silas wrote as part of his treatment. It was not eloquent, not poetic. It read like a man trying to use emotional language he was learning for the first time, like someone sounding out words in a foreign language, getting the pronunciation wrong, but trying. I do not know how to say this right. The therapist says I should try anyway. I hurt you on purpose. I knew what I was doing. I told myself it was business, but I knew. I knew the lipstick would hurt you. I knew the silence would hurt you. I chose it anyway because I was afraid. Of you. Of what you made me feel. Feeling things felt dangerous. So I made you the danger, and I destroyed you to feel safe. That is the worst kind of cowardice. I am learning that. Slowly. I hope Cora never has to learn what I am learning. I hope she grows up like you. I hope she never meets anyone like me. I read the letter once, folded it, placed it in a box in the top of my closet where I keep all the letters, the court documents, the newspaper articles. Someday when Cora is old enough, she can read them. She can know the whole story, and she can decide for herself what to feel about it. I opened my journal that night, a habit I started in therapy and have never stopped. Cora was asleep beside me, her hair wild on the pillow, Gerald the elephant tucked under her arm. Dear Cora, I wrote, someday you will read all of this. The letters, the articles, the court documents. You will ask me about your father, about what happened, about why we do not live together like other families. And I will tell you the truth, that I married a man who did not know how to love, that he hurt me in ways I am still healing from, that I almost let him destroy me. But I will also tell you this. He gave me you, and you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. You will ask if I forgive him, and I will tell you that forgiveness is not something I owe him. It is something I chose for myself, so I could stop carrying his poison and start building something new. Forgiveness is not a gift you give someone else. It is a door you open for yourself so you can finally walk through it and leave the burning building behind. You will ask if I am happy, and I will tell you the honest truth. Not the fairy tale, the real answer. I am not always happy. Some days are hard. Some nights, I still feel the walls closing in. I still cannot stand in rooms made entirely of glass. I still flinch when someone compliments my loyalty, because loyalty was the quality my father used to sell me and my husband used to cage me. But I am free, and I am yours. And I am building a life that nobody can take from me because I built it with my own hands, on my own terms, from materials that belong to me and no one else. That is not everything, but it is enough. It is so much more than enough. I closed the journal, set it on the nightstand, pulled the covers up over Cora's small shoulders because she kicks them off every single night and will not stop no matter how many times I tuck them in. Morning came the way mornings always come in Seattle. Gray, soft, wet. The kind of light that does not announce itself, just arrives quietly and fills the room like something gentle. Cora appeared in the kitchen doorway, hair going in 6 directions, pajamas twisted, holding a piece of paper. Mama, I drew our house. The drawing was messy, colorful, completely imperfect. A brown rectangle with a triangle roof and green blobs that I think were supposed to be my garden. 2 stick figures in front, one tall, one very small, both smiling, big, lopsided, crayon smiles. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. It is perfect, baby. I know. I am really good at drawing, and humble. What is humble. Something we will work on. She climbed onto her chair. I made toast. She wanted too much jam. I gave her too much jam because some battles are not worth fighting, and some battles are just about jam. She got it in her hair. I did not care. This is what surviving looks like. Not a phoenix rising from flames. Not a triumphant speech in front of thousands. Not a dramatic confrontation where you finally say all the things you wish you had said. Just toast and jam and a 3-year-old with sticky fingers and a mother who chose every single day, even on the days when choosing was the hardest thing in the world, to keep going. She did not just survive. She built something no one could take from her. Not a fortune, not an empire, not a glass tower overlooking a city that never sleeps. Something much harder to build and much harder to destroy. A life worth living, and a daughter who would grow up knowing exactly what strength looks like. Not loud, not perfect, not always brave, just steady, just present, just there every single morning, with toast and too much jam and a drawing of home held up like a flag of victory. That is enough. That is everything. Closing. Disclaimer. This story was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our creative team to deliver meaningful entertainment with real emotional value. Every narrative we produce is crafted to inspire strength, spark reflection, and remind our audience that their story is never over. Thank you for trusting us with your time.